What's going on is Anton from AntonDaniels.com. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me. Thank you for sending me this clip of Dr. Umar Johnson giving his thoughts and his ideas about Kevin Samuel specifically. I have not heard it as usual. I always like to check out different things that you guys send me, and I want to jump right into it. So let's just get it popping.
This week we saw the passing of the prophet Kevin Samuels, who is a polarizing figure, primarily for telling the truth. So, why do you think we've seen such polarization over his death, and many black women celebrating as if they had just vanquished Thanos at the end of the Avengers or something when it comes to the passing of Kevin Samuels?
Vanquish Thanos. Is that what black women really think about Kevin Samuels? They thought he was Thanos. And so now that he's gone, everything is all right with the world. They came back and they undid everything.
Here's what I would say. First thing that I think has to be said on this topic of the passing of Mr. Kevin Samuels is none of the black women who chose to go on his platform were forced to do so.
Facts.
He didn't beg any of them.
Facts.
He didn't manipulate any black women into coming on his platform.
Wait a minute. Am I agreeing with Dr. Umar Johnson? This is pretty interesting. That he did not coerce anybody to go on his platform. He's absolutely correct.
They all did so consciously of their own free decision. They came willingly. His platform was supported by women, and he has just as many female defenders as he has male defenders.
I think that's the thing, and I agree 100% with what Dr. Umar Johnson is saying. I think that's the thing that people is missing is that it's always the loudest ones in the room that make the most noise, and it does not necessarily reflect what the majority of the population is saying. If I had to guess, I would say that Kevin Samuels has more women that actually agree with his message than not. So, and then I've seen some cornballs, some simps that are celebrating and rejoicing in Kevin Samuel's death also. But let me go ahead and continue this.
And so therefore, to some degree, although I likewise did not agree with his message or his methods, many sisters who are suggesting that Kevin Samuels created this rift between black men and black women, they're being disingenuous. 75% of the vitriol, the hostility, and the vilification that black women are now showing towards Kevin Samuels would be more rightly placed or directed towards the queendom, the sisterhood, not Kevin Samuels. If anything, he exposed it, he exploited it, and he marketed the pre-existing differences between black men and black women, but he did not birth them.
Wait a minute. Is Umar Johnson speaking 1,000% facts without double talking and re-illustrating his point 7 times and absolutely placing all of the blame at the feet at the queendom, feminism, women that are moving on sister code, that refuse to take accountability, that are advocating for equal rights but are not advocating for equal results as a result of those rights? They're not acknowledging all of the ills and the woes that come along with being equal. And so he's saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, y'all can comment, he's saying specifically, we got to place this blame at the feet of the people that y'all been rocking with way before Kevin Samuels came along. Women didn't just automatically start falling into these categories as a result of Kevin Samuels coming along and being popular and exploding within the last 2.5 to 3 years. This is something that has always existed. And if anything, he just brought it to the forefront, which is one of the reasons why it made everybody so upset in the first place. Let me continue to listen to a little bit more of this.
And so I'm disappointed in both the way that black men and black women are reacting to Kevin Samuels' death. On the side of the sisterhood, I'm seeing black women say things like, I'm throwing a party to celebrate his death.
That's insane.
I've seen a sister say that. I've seen other women say, yes, we should be praising God for this. We should be honoring the ancestors that he is dead.
Yo, is it really that deep? Did Kevin Samuels affect women so much so to where women feel as though they are literally praising God and celebrating his death. And you know what the funny part about it is that I've always felt as though, somebody's passing. I mean, some of the most egregious people in the world that we all know personally, and it happened in every hood in America. You got the free right shirts on and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, even at their funeral and things like that, people have nothing negative to say about them. They just they let whatever happens and they say what they can good out of it and they keep it moving. People have never in my history, in any form, shape, or form, has never celebrated and highlighted the death of a person. They always just kind of moved a little bit different. But I guess this is like The Wire, right? They shooting on a Sunday. That's really tripped out. But he is absolutely right here.
But did you have the same energy for the police that killed Trayvon Martin? Did you have the same energy for the police who killed Breonna Taylor and Sandra Bland? I mean, what about the enemies of the black community? Did you throw a party when they were convicted or murdered or whatever the case may
Facts.
be? You don't show that type of vitriol to the enemies of black people, but yet you'll show it to Kevin Samuels.
Yo, and let's be clear, in my personal opinion, and I'm not sure if Umar Johnson is saying this specifically, but the enemies of a lot of these people that they are saying that are causing these problems are very much the people that look just like them, but they don't have any kind of smoke for them, but they got smoke for Kevin Samuels. That is absolutely, he is 1000% on point right now. Shout out to Umar Johnson. I got to be objective enough to give credit where credit is due and then highlight the things that I don't necessarily care for. But right now, he's 100% on point.
And then on the side of the brother's attorney, I take issue with the way in which many of our men are elevating him to the level of a black liberation martyr. Kevin Samuels was not a black activist. He did not have a history of grassroots work. I'm not aware of anything he did to fight against police injustice, mass incarceration, miseducation, gentrification, access to wealth. He was a businessman. He was a very successful businessman who used his platform to market his views on black male-female relationships to a tune of $3+ million. And I have no problem with people celebrating him as a businessman. I have no problem with people applauding the professional manner in which he offered his narrative to black men and black women. 3-piece suit, very calm, very professional, the ambiance of his platform.
So what he's basically saying is he's trying to be objective and he's trying to say, yo, listen, I have no problem with Kevin Samuels, the businessman, but I am disappointed in men that are looking at him as some form of liberation on behalf of black people or somebody that has actually done anything for black people. And I have to vehemently disagree with Dr. Umar Johnson on that. But I have to support the idea that he's objective enough to be able to separate how he feels from what the truth is as far as, how Kevin Samuels was able to look at things from a business perspective. And I think that all great businessmen are able to market themselves effectively. Otherwise, if you have no ability to market yourself effectively, then you shouldn't be in business. However, I do disagree with him about the idea that he did not affect the black community. As a matter of fact, one of the things that Kevin specifically to me highlighted that he wanted to continue to do was influence and impact young black men, which I'm not even a person that align myself based off of color, but impact young black men in so many different ways. And I'm not going to go into it, but what about the people that he brought together? What about his advocating for the strong family household and stand together as far as marriage? Isn't that the way that you actually impact the black community the most, is by advocating people stay married and get married and stay with the person and the father of your children, so that you then impact the future generations of what's to come and things like that. So I'm guessing none of that counts, right? I'm gonna listen to a little bit more and I want to see what else he got to say.
I had no problem with the way he conducted himself, but the method and the message I totally disagree with. And I support black men who want to support Kevin Samuels, but it is disingenuous and it is wrong, Dr. King and Medgar Evers and Malcolm X and Fred Hampton and the most honorable Marcus Garvey, to elevate this man's work to the level of martyrhood or saintdom when he has no history of grassroots activism or work. He was a businessman who did a very good job offering his opinions on male-female relationships.
So I guess there's more to this interview, but I don't want to deep dive into it too much. I have to respect Dr. Umar Johnson's objectivity and being able to at least, which is something that I see that most women are unable to do, acknowledge some of the impact and responsibility that lies at the feet of women. But in addition to that, also acknowledge his ability to be able to market himself effectively and clearly separate how he felt towards what was needed for the Black community from the impact and the legacy that Kevin Samuels left and his ability to be able to do such great things in such a short amount of time. However, I do disagree with the idea that he should not be celebrated by Black men or women for those same reasons that Dr. Umar Johnson stated. And I disagree with the idea that he did not impact people in a positive way. Listen, simply, we're not even going to talk about the things that he really did, because we all know that, right? But simply bringing problems to the forefront and putting yourself squarely in the crosshairs of public scrutiny in order to take a risk, and then he was rewarded as a result of it, is brave in and of itself, right? You had people coming for this guy every in which way on a regular basis. And there is no price that you can put on the peace that a person has within themselves and the stress that come along with continuing to get up every day, grind, only sleep 3 hours a day, and then dedicate themselves to what it is that they're working towards steadfastly, without changing, without wavering, without becoming anything other than exactly what you were shooting for. Listen, I think that Umar Johnson is making some sense, and that's okay if you disagree with something that somebody says, because we don't agree with 100% of anything that anybody says. But I do appreciate his objectivity in order to be able to acknowledge some things. Let me know what y'all think, right? I want to know, do you agree with the things that Umar Johnson said in the passing of Kevin Samuels? And then also, are you also seeing some of the things that other people are seeing across the internet and people celebrating his death? Make sure you join the Patreon. Link is in the description. And if you need personal coaching, make sure you tap in with me. AntonDaniels.com. Go to my website, hit the email button. It'll open your email client, get you to book a session with me, or you can email me at AntonDaniels413@gmail.com. I love you guys. I appreciate you. I'm curious to see what your thoughts are. And then let me know in the comments also. Have a good afternoon.